The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom hype is out of this world. It's out of control at this point. People are so excited to talk about the game, watch content on the game, analyze everything. I've been absorbing every bit of information that's come out from various different content creators, looking through all the footage. I've been watching the new trailers. I've been watching everything as it's been going. And honestly, I haven't seen hype for a Nintendo Switch title this big probably since the original Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, or even Super Smash Brothers or something like that. It's insane how crazy things are going. So yes, it's a bit out of control at this point, but The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom still has its biggest task in front of it, and we're going to talk about it here. So once again, the previews are incredible. The sales are looking to be absolutely explosive. The game is charting higher in Japanese sales over titles like Splatoon. It's going to catch Smash Brothers, Animal Crossing. There's various different indicators that this game is going to blow it out of the water when it comes to sales. On Amazon, it's been the #1 game for the past number of months. Looks like Nintendo's pre-orders are honestly going to break records here. So we know all about that. The marketing's been great. They've been showing off new commercials. It's been on online. It's been print ads. There's been on Twitch. It's been everywhere, even major TV. So there is marketing, there is hype, there is pre-orders, there are previews. Everything is falling in line for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. But we still have more to get in front, and there's still something for this game to prove, which was a big talking point before we got all of this new information on the game. Some people were worried that this wouldn't be able to live up to what The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild has done. But can this game, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, surprise and surpass Breath of the Wild in the realm of discovery, surprises, and the feeling, the raw essence of when you play a game? Now, just to go back just a bit, guys, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was a monumental, life-changing experience for me. And I don't use that very, loosely or anything like that. Honestly, I owe my channel and really the change in my attitude in terms of how I perceive things on The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. For those who don't know, at the time that the game was coming out, I had just lost my day job and I really had nothing else to do but really just play Breath of the Wild at that time. And it really made me think, hey, I can make something out of myself with this. I can do something a bit more. So it might be hard to replicate that feeling, but even if you push that aside, when I went into that game world, the way that it made me feel with the discovery, with the tools, with everything that it offers, it was like no other game that I have ever played. That initial shock and surprise, that essence of when I played, was incredible. And now that this is a sequel, it's following up, will it have that same magic? Yes, it could be better in many different ways, but will it give us that same feeling that we had? That is going to be one of the biggest tasks that's in front of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, to surpass the immediate success that we saw with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, from what we've seen from the previews, we know that this game is going to be stacked. It's got features on features, it's got content and content, it's got huge sky areas, it's got beautiful graphics, it's got everything that you would want in a sequel and then some, and they are hiding a lot. Nintendo, we know, when it comes down to it, this game is going to be far, far bigger than The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. But will it be able to match Breath of the Wild in that initial wonder, shock, and excitement? That is going to be one of the biggest things that I think some people are still a little bit undecided on. You have the jump to $70 in the price range. You obviously have the long period of where there wasn't much information, then a rush of new content. Obviously, the graphics aren't necessarily way better than what we saw. Better for sure, but not way better. The Switch is in a different place in its life. It's not necessarily as new. Obviously, the system is a bit long in the tooth when it comes to the power and frame rates and stuff like that. So there's still a lot of questions for a lot of people out there, even based off the previews. But I think we can all, on the ground level, see, okay, this game is going to be really good, but just how good will it be? And I think that leads to the next thing of the biggest task, and that is actually matching what The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild did when it comes to critically, because as much as everyone likes to talk about how Metacritic and review scores don't matter, they do matter. If a game gets 100 out of 100 when it comes to its Metacritic, I'm pretty sure there's going to be far more eyes and far more people buying that game than if it got a 7 out of 10, or if I got like a 70 out of 10, right? Usually, the better the score, the more eyes, the more hype, the more sales. And that's why it's always been important to have a high Metacritic score or professional reviews in most cases. Now, some games do transcend that, where the score doesn't necessarily matter as much. They're just excited to play the game. Like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, that doesn't have the best score, but it's one of a kind style of game. Not many other people are making a game like that, and there's still tons of features. So people are gonna buy that game regardless. But in a game like The Legend of Zelda that has set such high bars for review scores. If you go back, I mean, Legend of Zelda has been one of the most consistently average in terms of Metacritic scores since we've been getting the Metacritic consistently in the N64 era. Pretty much every single mainline Legend of Zelda console game has a 90 plus average. I think the lowest is 93. And even if you wanted to throw in the portable games in there, stuff like Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks still have really good scores. So I feel that The Legend of Zelda, it's a bit different. This game is pretty much the end of the Switch era at this point. We're getting near the end of it. And can it top what came out 6+ years ago? It needs to be able to, but will it hit that fabled 97 average? Many games don't get there. Not even Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, Resident Evil 4 Remake. These are games, some of the most beloved franchises out there, couldn't reach up to that point. Elden Ring almost got there. But I think that shock, that excitement, that, oh my gosh, this is a storied franchise with the souls, but something completely new and different, really pushed that score up from usually what the Souls games get, which is like the lower 90s or so, and it pushed it all the way up to a 96. Once you start getting in that range, above 94, 95, that puts you in very rare territory. Very rare waters, very rare territory. Many games do not do that. 99.9% of games do not get anywhere close to that 96 average. So Breath of the Wild is sitting at a 97. Can we see The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom actually hit that 97 or more? Well, before the previews, I was very unsure if that would be a thing. I was thinking to myself, you know what? It's probably going to be more like a 94 or 95, and it still very well could be that. But based off of the previews and based off of what I saw and the fact that Nintendo is being so secretive, if you just add up everything, Nintendo being secretive in terms of how the game and what's going on with the story and some of the other features in there, the previews essentially gushing over every single little bit of creation and what you can do in there. And on top of simply just having that excitement in terms of reviewers or players being able to play it and not be spoiled beforehand with Nintendo so they don't expect it, because I expect there to be some crazy dungeon stuff. I expect there to be some crazy story stuff that Nintendo is keeping close to their chest so you are surprised and shocked. If they're able to execute on those things with the reviewers and with players, we can see The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom actually hit a 97 or 96 average. It can get close to there. Now, there is some precedence for this when it comes to Nintendo and sequels. We saw it a little bit, Ocarina of Time to Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask was not as big of a project. It took about a year to make that game. The score did dip down by a few points. I think that's a 95 to a 99. Ocarina of Time is officially the highest rated Metacritic game of all time, so that's going to be tough to match. But it was still up there when it comes to it. But if you look at another game, this is the title that I want to compare it to, and that is Super Mario Galaxy versus Super Mario Galaxy 2. This is very interesting because Super Mario Galaxy was a 97, groundbreaking Mario game, completely new setting, completely new everything with this title. It put Mario in different types of gameplay propositions that we have never seen before, and it was phenomenal for the Wii back in 2007. Fast forward to May-ish, mid-2010, sequel comes out, Super Mario Galaxy 2. Essentially what some people would call $60, or more like $50. It was $50 back then. So yeah, for the Wii games, $50 DLC, right? Graphics look very similar, gameplay looks very similar. So is that just DLC? Well, it started out as it being DLC, but then it really just ballooned into a new game when they realized they couldn't really do DLC on the Wii the way that they wanted to do it. So they just made another game. So then that title comes out and it also gets a 97 average because it's every bit as good as the previous game, and even then some. It's actually even better. They add more features, they add more things. The game is just better overall when it comes down to it. So it got the exact same score, which is very difficult to do. Most of the time when you have a direct sequel, it's probably not going to get the same score. We saw it with Phantom Hourglass, Wind Waker, but obviously you go from one console to another, so that's not necessarily the best example, but I think Super Mario Galaxy is a pretty good example. Basing it off of that, if The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom can have that same flair, that same spice that we saw, that synergy, but then also bump it up to the next level, it very well could have the exact same score. I don't know if it's going to go above it, but it's very much could be that. And that is a big task. That is something that's a big task for Nintendo going forward, because they would love for the game to have a 97, 98 average. It's just going to be very, very difficult to do so. But based off of the previews and based on what I'm seeing here, I do think it's now possible. Not saying that it's going to happen 100% or anything, because once again, it's unpredictable. And the fact that Super Mario Galaxy 1 to Super Mario Galaxy 2, there was only about 2.5 years or so time in between, because Galaxy 1 came out at the very end of 2007. But with Legend of Zelda, it's been 6+ years. So it's been a lot more time, and usually with more time, you get different people, different expectations when it comes to technical aspects and things. So there's definitely some key differences there, but we'll see how it all shapes up. I'm excited just for everything when it comes to The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. But what are your thoughts on this topic, guys? And make sure you check out my previous Legend of Zelda videos. You can click on any of them right here, where I talk about a variety of different and interesting things. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it, and we'll see you for the next video. Peace.